Life on New Montana was hard. The planet was far from Earth, and people who lived there had to be tough. Samuel Hayes knew this well as he looked at what was left of his ranch after the worst storms anyone could remember. The storms had killed 14 of his 16 horses. Now he had so much debt that he might lose everything. Thunder made a soft sound from her temporary stable. Sam walked over and touched her neck gently. She was all he had left, a strong, smart mare who could mean the difference between getting to town for supplies or starving through the winter. Thunder was worth more than gold out here. "It's just you and me now, girl," he said, checking her gear for the trip to Redemption Falls. The trading post was 3 days away by horseback through dangerous land. But Sam needed supplies, and this trip would decide if he still had a ranch when spring came. The sun was just coming up when Sam started checking his property lines. This had become more important since the storms broke his security sensors. The wild areas past his fence were home to dangerous animals. They usually stayed away from humans, but desperate times made everyone act differently. Sam was checking his east fence when Thunder suddenly got nervous. Her ears turned toward something Sam couldn't see yet. Years of living on the frontier had taught him to trust his horse's senses more than his own. "What is it, girl?" Sam asked. Thunder snorted and moved toward some twisted trees that marked the border between human land and the huge wilderness where the Whisperwind clans lived. Sam followed, his hand on the energy rifle he carried for protection against predators who thought humans made good food. What he found wasn't a predator. A woman from an alien species was lying hurt against a tree. Her pointed ears made it clear she was from the Whisperwind clans, though Sam had never seen one this close to human settlements before. Her flowing clothes were torn and stained with blood. She was breathing, but barely. Sam got off his horse carefully and approached like he would any hurt wild animal. The Whisperwind people were known for being peaceful, but they were also known for being independent and able to talk to dangerous wildlife. "Ma'am," he called softly. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened pale blue like winter sky and looked at him with great effort. When she spoke, her voice had the musical quality of her species, though it was weak with pain. "Human," she whispered in accented standard speech. "You should not be here. Dangerous. You're hurt." "What happened?" "Shadow stalkers. Pack hunters from deep wilderness. They expand territory, killing everything." She tried to sit up and gasped in pain. "My clan does not know where I am." Sam could see how badly hurt she was now. Deep claw marks across her body and legs had been bleeding for hours, maybe days. Her left leg was bent at a wrong angle, and her pale skin showed she had lost too much blood. "Ma'am, I need to get you to a doctor. There's a clinic at Redemption Falls, but it's 3 days by horse. Cannot ride. Too weak." Sam looked at Thunder, then at the hurt alien woman, then at the dangerous territory between them and help. The math was simple and brutal. Thunder could carry one person to safety, but not 2. If he tried to walk while she rode, they would both die before reaching help. If she tried to walk, she would collapse in hours. "What's your name?" he asked. "Senna. Scout singer of the Moon Whisper clan." "Senna, I'm Sam Hayes. I'm going to help you, but you have to trust me. I'm going to put you on my horse and send her toward the trading post. Thunder's smart, she knows the way and will take you to people who can help." Senna's eyes went wide. "Your horse. But then you walk." "It'll take me longer to get help, but at least you'll make it." "You would give up your transportation to save a stranger? An alien stranger?" Sam thought about this while figuring out how to get Senna onto Thunder's back without hurting her more. "Ma'am, where I come from, you don't leave people to die if you can help it. What species you are doesn't matter. Your life matters, and I'll figure something out. I usually do." Getting Senna onto the horse was hard and probably hurt her more, though she took the pain with the quiet strength that seemed normal for her people. Sam tied her to the saddle with emergency straps and gave Thunder instructions he hoped a smart horse could understand. "Thunder, take her to Doc Martinez at the trading post. You know where it is, girl. Get her help." The mare seemed to understand how serious this was. She started moving with a smooth walk that wouldn't shake Senna too much but would still cover ground fast. "Sam Hayes," Senna said as Thunder carried her away from the ranch, "I will not forget this kindness. Just focus on staying alive, ma'am. That'll be thanks enough." As horse and rider disappeared, Sam started the long walk toward town. He knew he had just made a choice that might save one life but probably doom his own. After years of barely surviving on the frontier, he was likely going to die because he chose to save someone most humans had never even met. But as Sam settled into the steady walking rhythm that would last for days, he felt strangely peaceful about his choice. Some things were more important than survival. Treating another person's life as precious was definitely one of them. Behind him, barely visible in the morning light, shapes moved through the wild lands with the silence that had given the Whisperwind clans their name. They had been tracking their missing scout singer for 2 days, and they had seen everything. Sam Hayes had no idea that his simple act of kindness was about to change not just 2 lives, but the relationship between species that had lived separately for decades. The Whisperwind clans had old traditions about honoring debts that could never be repaid. What they had just seen would require a response no human colonist had ever experienced. At sunrise, Senna's sisters would come to give that response. Sam would learn that some gifts create duties that go beyond individual kindness and become the foundation for alliances that change entire worlds. Sam had been walking for 6 hours when he started to think his noble choice might kill him. The frontier land of New Montana wasn't made for people on foot. Hills that looked easy from horseback became exhausting climbs when walking. Distances that seemed reasonable at horse speed became endless marathons for someone carrying supplies and trying to move fast enough to reach help before freezing or local predators decided to attack. His water was running low. His feet were getting blisters that would need medical attention. The shadows from the twin suns said he had about 8 hours of daylight left to cover what should have been a day and a half of travel. Should have thought this through better, he said to himself, stopping to rest against a rock that blocked the wind. Could have made some kind of sled system or figured out how to carry her while leading Thunder. The list of other solutions he could have used if he'd been thinking strategically instead of emotionally was long and completely unhelpful. What was done was done. Frontier life didn't give many chances to start over. He was checking his compass and trying to plan the best route when movement caught his eye. 3 figures stood on a hill about 200 meters away, still as statues but somehow radiating focused attention that meant they were very interested in him. They had to be Whisperwind clan members. No human moved with that particular mix of grace and stillness, and their shapes were unmistakable against the sky. Sam raised his hand in what he hoped was a universal peaceful greeting. The figures didn't respond, but they didn't disappear either, which he took as a good sign. "Great," he said out loud, continuing his walk toward Redemption Falls. "Now I'm being followed by aliens whose plans are completely mysterious. This day keeps getting better." The Whisperwind Watchers kept their distance but continued tracking his progress, sometimes appearing on different hills like helpful but silent guides. Sam tried to tell himself their presence was coincidental, but the growing certainty that he was under deliberate watch added another layer of complexity to his already dangerous situation. By evening, when he made camp in a sheltered spot that protected him from wind and gave him good visibility, Sam's mysterious escorts had become a constant presence. He could sense them in the darkness beyond his small fire, though their stealth abilities made seeing them directly impossible. "I don't suppose any of you speak Standard," he called into the night, feeling only slightly ridiculous for trying to talk to beings who might not even be paying attention. The silence that answered was deep enough to suggest they were definitely paying attention, but weren't interested in conversation. Sam settled by his fire and tried to focus on practical concerns, rationing his remaining food, calculating tomorrow's distance requirements, and ignoring the growing certainty that his chances of reaching Redemption Falls on foot were somewhere between slim and almost impossible. He was waking from restless sleep when the sound started. A low harmonic humming that seemed to come from multiple directions at once. It was unlike anything he'd ever heard, beautiful in a way that made him think of wind through canyon walls or water over stone, but also clearly alien in its structure and rhythm. The Whisperwind were singing. Sam lay still, afraid that any movement might interrupt what was clearly some kind of ceremony or communication. The song continued for nearly an hour, its complex harmonies rising and falling in patterns that felt almost familiar, as if they were designed to connect with something universal in thinking beings' minds. When the singing finally faded, Sam found himself more deeply rested than he'd felt in months, as if the alien music had somehow repaired his tiredness at a cellular level. "Thank you," he said to the darkness, unsure if his words would be understood but feeling he had to acknowledge the gift he'd received. Dawn brought clear skies and the discovery that his mysterious escorts had left supplies during the night. Water containers made from materials he didn't recognize. Concentrated food that looked like crystallized starlight but tasted like the best meal he'd ever eaten. And a small device that projected a three-dimensional map showing the most efficient route to Redemption Falls. More importantly, the route shown on the alien map was much shorter than the path Sam had planned, using terrain features and shortcuts that human settlers had never discovered. "Well," Sam said to the empty landscape, "I guess I'm officially in debt to people I've never met for helping me rescue someone I barely know." The irony wasn't lost on him. His act of giving up his horse to save an alien woman had somehow resulted in her people providing him with better survival support than he could have managed alone. As he continued toward the trading post, following the route provided by beings whose motives remained completely mysterious, Sam began to understand that his simple decision to help an injured stranger had set in motion something far more complex than he'd expected. The Whisperwind clans operated according to social rules that human colonists barely understood. Sam was beginning to suspect that his rescue of Senna had created duties and expectations that would extend far beyond getting her medical care. The question was whether those duties would prove to be blessings or complications that would fundamentally change his life on the frontier. By midday, when he reached the halfway point to Redemption Falls in record time thanks to the alien-provided route, Sam was leaning toward the possibility that helping Senna might turn out to be the most important decision he'd ever made. Though he suspected he wouldn't fully understand what it meant until Senna's sisters decided what his act of compassion meant for the future of human-Whisperwind relations on New Montana. Sam reached Redemption Falls trading post to discover that Thunder had delivered her cargo successfully and that Senna was recovering under Doc Martinez's care. The Frontier Doctor's training had been helped by an emergency consultation with Whisperwind healers who had appeared shortly after the horse's arrival. This coordination suggested that Senna's clan had been tracking the situation with much more precision than Sam had realized. "She's going to be fine," Doc Martinez assured him as they stood outside the medical facility. "Whisperwind physiology is remarkably tough, and whoever gave her initial field treatment did excellent work under difficult circumstances." That would be me, though I was mostly guessing. "Well, your guesses were better than my training in some cases. How did you know to use pressure points for Whisperwind circulatory systems?" Sam stared at him. "I didn't. I just tried to stop the bleeding using techniques that work on horses." Apparently, Whisperwind and horse circulatory systems are similar enough that your veterinary experience worked perfectly. Sometimes luck looks just like expertise. Inside the clinic, Senna was sitting up in bed, looking much better than during their journey but still pale enough to show she needed serious recovery time. Her pointed ears perked up when Sam entered, and her smile carried genuine warmth. "Sam Hayes," she said, "you look terrible. 3 days of walking will do that to a person. How are you feeling?" "Alive, thanks to your sacrifice. My sisters tell me you could have died making that journey on foot." "Your sisters, they've been tracking us since you found me?" Whisperwind clans do not abandon their own, but they also do not interfere unless intervention becomes necessary. Sam settled into the chair beside her bed, grateful for the chance to sit on something that didn't require forward motion. "So they were watching the whole time?" "They were evaluating. Your decision to give me your horse created what we call a soul debt, an obligation so deep that it affects not just individuals, but entire family groups. They needed to understand your motivations before determining how to respond." "And what did they determine?" Senna's expression grew serious. "That you acted without expecting reward, sacrificing your own survival chances to help someone you owed nothing to. In Whisperwind culture, such actions create bonds that go beyond individual relationships." "What kind of bonds?" Before Senna could answer, Doc Martinez returned with a woman Sam had never seen before. Tall, elegant, with silver-streaked hair and the bearing of someone used to authority. Her pointed ears were decorated with intricate jewelry that seemed to shift and change in the light. "Sam Hayes," the woman said, "I am Matriarch Vera of the Moon Whisper clan, Senna's clan mother. We need to speak." The conversation that followed took place in Doc Martinez's office, with Senna translating cultural concepts that didn't have direct standard equivalents. Sam learned that his rescue of a scout singer had political implications that extended far beyond personal gratitude. "The Whisperwind clans have maintained careful distance from human settlements," Matriarch Vera explained. "Not from hostility, but from uncertainty about your people's intentions. Your colonies expand rapidly, claiming territory without always understanding its significance to existing ecosystems. We try to be respectful," Sam said carefully. "Some do. Others see only resources to be exploited. Until now, we have observed your species with cautious neutrality. And now? Now we have evidence that humans are capable of genuine altruism toward non-human life. Your sacrifice for Senna demonstrates values that align with our own, the belief that all thinking life has inherent worth." Senna leaned forward from her position on the medical bed. "Sam, what Matriarch Vera is explaining is that your actions have created a precedent. The clans are reconsidering their relationship with human colonists based on what you chose to do." "I just helped someone who needed help." "Exactly," Matriarch Vera said with satisfaction. "You acted according to principles rather than self-interest. This creates possibilities that did not exist before." "What kind of possibilities?" "Cooperation. Shared knowledge. Protection against threats that endanger both our peoples." Sam thought about the shadow stalkers that had injured Senna, the predators that had been expanding their territory and threatening both human livestock and Whisperwind settlements. "You think we could work together to deal with the shadow stalker problem?" "Among other things. Your people possess technology that could complement our understanding of wilderness ecosystems. Our knowledge of native species behavior could help your settlements avoid conflicts that have plagued frontier expansion." "And the price for this cooperation?" Matriarch Vera exchanged glances with Senna, some kind of silent communication passing between them. "There is no price," she said finally. But there is an obligation. You created a soul debt by sacrificing for one of our people. That debt extends beyond Senna to our entire clan structure. What does that mean practically speaking? It means, Senna said with something that might have been amusement, that you are about to discover how Whisperwind clans repay debts that cannot be calculated in material terms. Should I be worried? That depends on how you feel about having your life become significantly more complicated. Sam looked around the medical facility at the alien matriarch whose presence somehow made the space feel more ceremonial than clinical, at Senna whose recovery represented far more than simple medical success, and at Doc Martinez whose expression suggested he was witnessing something unprecedented in frontier politics. "Ma'am," he said to Matriarch Vera, "I get the feeling that my simple life as a struggling rancher just became something else entirely." "Indeed it has, Sam Hayes. Indeed it has." Outside the clinic, the settlement of Redemption Falls continued its normal routine, unaware that the conversation taking place in Doc Martinez's office was about to fundamentally alter the relationship between human colonists and the Whisperwind clans, with a horse sacrificing rancher serving as the unlikely catalyst for the most significant interspecies cooperation agreement in New Montana's history. Sam suspected that when Senna's sisters arrived to collect her, he was going to learn exactly what soul debt meant in practical terms. He also suspected that whatever happened next would be considerably more interesting than his previous career of fixing fences and complaining about the weather. They came at sunrise, moving across the landscape with fluid silence that had made the Whisperwind clans legendary among frontier settlers. Sam woke to find 12 alien women standing in perfect formation outside the trading post. Their presence was so coordinated and quiet that they seemed to have appeared from morning mist rather than traveled through normal space. Matriarch Vera stepped forward as the designated speaker, but Sam's attention was drawn to the others. Each bore the distinctive pointed ears and graceful bearing of the Whisperwind, but their individual characteristics suggested they represented different clans and specializations of warriors, healers, artisans, and what appeared to be clan leaders, all gathered for reasons that Sam suspected were about to become very clear and possibly very overwhelming. "Sam Hayes," Matriarch Vera said, her voice carrying across the settlement with perfect clarity, "the Moon Whisper clan, the Starweaver clan, the Dawn Rider clan, and the Silent Brook clan have come to acknowledge a debt that cannot be repaid through conventional means." Doc Martinez, who had emerged from his clinic with the expression of someone watching history unfold in his front yard, whispered, "Sam, I don't think you understand what's happening here. For clans working together is unprecedented in recorded Whisperwind history." "What are they doing?" "Creating an alliance, I think, with you at the center of it." Senna appeared in the clinic doorway, supported by a walking stick but mobile enough to participate in what was clearly a formal ceremony. Her recovery had been remarkable, aided by Whisperwind healing techniques that combined herbal medicine with what Sam could only describe as therapeutic singing. "Sam," she said, approaching with careful dignity, "my sisters have come to honor the soul debt you created by sacrificing your means of survival to preserve my life." "Sisters? All of them?" "Clan sisters, the representatives of every family group whose territory you crossed during your journey to bring me help. Your sacrifice has been witnessed and evaluated according to our most sacred traditions." Matriarch Vera activated a small device that projected holographic images into the air between them, recordings of Sam's journey, his decision to give up Thunder, his 3-day walk through dangerous territory, and every moment of his interaction with Senna. "Sam Hayes," she announced formally, "you demonstrated the kind of selfless courage that our people consider the highest virtue. You placed another's life above your own survival, expecting nothing in return, asking for no reward or recognition." "I just did what anyone would do." "No," said a woman Sam hadn't met yet, stepping forward from the group. "You did what few would do. I am Dara Swiftstream of the Starweaver clan. We have observed human settlers for 30 years. Most are decent people, but they help their own kind and maintain distance from ours. You helped a stranger of a different species at great cost to yourself. Another clan representative joined the conversation. I am Nia Brightwind of the Dawn Rider clan. Our scouts report that your ranch suffered devastating losses in the recent storms. Your horse represented your only means of reaching supplies necessary for winter survival. You gave up your life to save ours. Which brings us, Matriarch Vera continued, to the question of appropriate response. Soul debts of this magnitude require collective action from all affected clans. Sam felt a growing sense that this ceremony was about to produce results he wasn't prepared for. Ma'am, I appreciate the recognition, but I don't need any reward. Knowing that Senna recovered is enough. Sam Hayes, you misunderstand. This is not about reward. This is about obligation. Your sacrifice has created bonds between our peoples that must be honored through reciprocal action. What kind of reciprocal action? The clan representatives moved into a circle around Sam, and he realized that whatever was about to happen had been planned with ceremonial precision. By unanimous consent of the assembled clans, Matriarch Vera announced, "We offer you adoption into the Whisperwind Nation as an honored clan brother, with all rights and protections such status provides. We also offer material restoration," added Dara Swiftstream. "Livestock to replace what you lost, supplies for winter survival, and knowledge that will help your ranch thrive in harmony with local ecosystems." Furthermore, Nia Brightwind continued, "We offer partnership in addressing the Shadowstalker threat that endangers both our peoples. Your ranch will become a coordination center for joint patrols and information sharing." Sam looked around at the 12 alien women whose formal offer was rapidly redefining his entire existence on New Montana. "This is incredibly generous, but I don't understand what I would offer in return." "You offer what you have already demonstrated," Senna said, stepping closer with obvious emotion. "The ability to see beyond species differences, to recognize shared values, the courage to act on those values regardless of personal cost, the wisdom to treat others with dignity and respect. You offer a bridge," Matriarch Vera added, "between human colonists and Whisperwind clans, allowing both peoples to benefit from cooperation rather than maintaining careful separation." Sam felt the weight of their expectations settling on his shoulders like a ceremonial cloak he wasn't sure he was qualified to wear. What would this partnership look like, practically speaking? "Your ranch becomes a meeting ground where humans and Whisperwind can interact safely," Dara explained. "Cultural exchange, trade negotiations, joint security patrols. A demonstration that our species can coexist beneficially." "And if it doesn't work? If I mess up this bridge building thing?" Senna smiled, her expression holding warmth that made Sam's chest tight with emotions he didn't have names for. "Sam Hayes, you have already proven that when faced with impossible choices, you choose compassion over self-preservation. That is the foundation upon which all successful bridges are built." 6 months later, Sam stood on the porch of his rebuilt ranch house, watching human colonists and Whisperwind clan members work together to construct a community center that would serve both populations. His property had indeed become a bridge between worlds, hosting everything from trade negotiations to cultural festivals to joint training exercises for dealing with frontier dangers. Thunder grazed in the expanded pasture alongside Whisperwind riding animals whose species Sam was still learning to identify, while Senna, who had chosen to remain as the permanent Whisperwind liaison, taught human children how to communicate with livestock using techniques that didn't require telepathy but relied on patience and observation. "Regrets?" she asked, joining him on the porch as the twin suns set over their shared community. "About giving up my horse to save your life?" "Not even slightly." "About having your quiet rancher's life transformed into an interspecies diplomatic center?" Sam watched a group of human and Whisperwind children playing games that combined elements from both cultures, their laughter carrying across the settlement as easily as the evening breeze. Senna, 6 months ago I was failing as a rancher and probably going to lose my land to debt and bad weather. Now I'm part of something that's bringing two peoples together in ways that benefit everyone involved. How could I regret that? Even though your simple life became complicated beyond anything you could have imagined? Especially because of that. Turns out I was lonely without knowing it, stuck in routines that kept me isolated from anything meaningful. Senna leaned against the porch railing, her recovery complete, but her presence on his ranch now permanent in ways that had evolved far beyond diplomatic necessity. Sam, can I tell you something about soul debts that I didn't explain before? Should I be worried? That depends on how you feel about Whisperwind courtship traditions. Sam nearly choked on his coffee. Courtship traditions? When someone saves a clan member's life through profound personal sacrifice, and when that person demonstrates compatibility with Whisperwind values through subsequent actions, the rescued individual has the right to propose a bonding ceremony. A bonding ceremony? What humans would call marriage, though our traditions include broader concepts of family and community obligation. Sam set down his coffee and looked at Senna properly, really looked at her for the first time since their initial desperate journey. Over the months of working together to establish the Interspecies Cooperation Center, he'd grown accustomed to her presence, her insights, her laugh when he made observations about Whisperwind culture that were technically accurate but hilariously incomplete. Senna, are you? I am proposing that our partnership become permanent, not just as diplomatic allies, but as life partners. If you're interested. What about the complications? Different species, different cultures, different lifespans? What about the compatibility we've already demonstrated? The way we work together, understand each other, balance each other's strengths and limitations? Sam considered this while watching the community they'd built together function with remarkable harmony. Human engineering combined with Whisperwind ecological wisdom had created something better than either species could have achieved alone. There's one more thing you should know, Senna continued. Whisperwind bonding ceremonies aren't just individual commitments. They create formal alliances between the partners' respective communities. So if I marry you, I'm essentially signing a treaty between humanity and the Whisperwind clans? You're formalizing a treaty that already exists through your actions. The ceremony would simply make it official. Thunder chose that moment to trot up to the porch, followed by Windwhisper, the Whisperwind mount that Senna had been gifted by her clan. The two animals had become inseparable companions, often seen grazing together or coordinating their activities with the kind of natural partnership that made Sam think about symbolism. Even the horses think it's a good idea, Senna observed. The horses have excellent judgment. Is that a yes? Sam looked at the woman who had entered his life as a wounded stranger and become his partner in building something unprecedented on the frontier. Their relationship had grown from desperate circumstances into genuine affection built on shared work, mutual respect, and the discovery that their differences complemented rather than complicated their connection. Senna, I need you to understand something. I'm not agreeing to this because of soul debts or diplomatic obligations or interspecies politics. Then why? Because over the past 6 months, you've become the most important person in my world. Because working with you feels like I finally found what I was meant to be doing. Because I can't imagine building this community with anyone else. Her smile could have powered the settlement's energy grid. Those are exactly the reasons I was hoping you'd choose. The bonding ceremony took place 3 weeks later, with representatives from both species creating a celebration that honored both human and Whisperwind traditions. Sam found himself wearing ceremonial robes that somehow managed to look both dignified and practical, while Senna's traditional dress incorporated elements from both cultures. "Are you ready for this?" she asked as they prepared to enter the ceremony space. "Ready to marry the woman who turned my failing ranch into the most successful interspecies cooperation center in frontier history? Ready to formalize my commitment to someone who's taught me that love doesn't require similar species, just compatible hearts? Ready to spend my life building bridges between worlds with my best friend and partner?" That's a very long way of saying yes. It's a very important yes. As they walked toward their future together, Sam reflected on the chain of events that had brought them here. A simple decision to help someone in need had become the foundation for alliance, love, and community that neither species had thought possible. The frontier of New Montana spread around them, no longer a harsh wilderness to be endured, but a shared home to be cultivated by people who had learned that the most valuable resources were compassion, cooperation, and the courage to choose kindness when it would have been easier to walk away. Thunder and Wind Whisper grazed together in the distance, while human and Whisperwind children played games that hadn't existed before their communities learned to see beyond differences to the connections that made them family. "Senna," Sam said as they approached the ceremony that would formalize what had already become true through choice and commitment, "thank you." "For what?" "For trusting me enough to let me help. For teaching me that love can grow from the strangest circumstances. For showing me that sacrifice shared with the right person becomes strength instead of loss." "Thank you," she replied, "for proving that humans possess the kind of honor our people thought might not exist among the stars." As the ceremony began, witnessed by two species who had found in each other the partners they hadn't known they were looking for, Sam understood that sometimes the most profound journeys begin with the simple decision to give what you have to help someone who needs it, trusting that love and generosity create their own rewards in ways too complex for any individual to predict or control.